Beloved, as we stand on the threshold of the month's end, I declare that this is not an ordinary Friday. This is a divinely orchestrated moment in time. Heaven has aligned itself with your destiny, and God has summoned you into this space to receive fresh grace, renewed strength, and a deep river of thanksgiving. You are not here by accident. You are here because something in your spirit knows that God is closing this month with power and opening the next with glory. As you listen, let every distraction fall away and let your spirit rise in expectation, because what God is about to release over your life will shift the atmosphere around you. As we step into this prophetic moment, I decree that every burden that is weighed on your shoulders, every unanswered question, every silent battle, and every hidden struggle is being brought under the authority of the Almighty. This is your moment to breathe again, to realign, to reset, and to reclaim your focus. This same God who carried you through the challenges of the past weeks is the same God who will launch you into the final days of this month with supernatural endurance and divine clarity. Lift your faith, because heaven is responding to you right now. And as we move forward today, prepare your heart to receive impartation. Prepare your mind to receive instruction. Prepare your spirit to receive strength. God is positioning you for a victorious ending and an extraordinary beginning. If this prayer is blessing you already, like this video and subscribe to the channel for daily prayer. Type amen in the comments and comment one thing you are believing God for today, because heaven is listening and agreement unlocks manifestation. Beloved, when we speak about the release of fresh grace at the end of the month, we are not speaking about a small, gentle idea. We are speaking about the movement of heaven itself leaning toward you with intention. Fresh grace is not recycled strength. It is not leftover mercy. It is not yesterday's anointing stretched into today. Fresh grace is God breathing upon you again, refilling what life has drained, restoring what burdens have depleted, renewing what battles have exhausted. It is God saying, you will not end this month in your own power. You will end it in mine. And when God releases fresh grace, it comes with a peace that quiets every storm, a clarity that cuts through confusion, and a supernatural strength that lifts you above everything that tried to weigh you down. This grace is not accidental. It is scheduled by heaven for this exact moment in your life. As you stand at the edge of the month, God is pouring grace into the cracks of your soul, the corners of your mind, the weary places of your heart, and the silent struggles you never voiced aloud. Fresh grace meets you where you are and carries you where you could not go on your own. At the end of every month, there is a spiritual shift taking place, whether you feel it or not. Heaven marks time differently than we do, but God honors cycles, endings, and beginnings. And in these moments, these thresholds, He releases grace specifically designed to help you close one chapter and enter the next without residue, without heaviness, without fragmentation. Fresh grace sweeps in like a gentle wind, gathering all your scattered strength and pulling it back together. It clears the fog that built up over the past weeks. It lifts the weight of unspoken concerns. It washes away disappointment, regret, and fatigue. Fresh grace is God giving you permission to breathe again, to straighten your shoulders, to dream again, and to step forward with renewed confidence. It is His way of saying you are not ending this month in survival mode. You are ending it in overflow. This grace is not loud or aggressive. It is calm, steady, and restorative. It meets you in the quiet of your spirit and begins to rebuild you from the inside out, preparing you for the next phase of your journey. You may not have realized it, but grace is what has carried you through every challenge of this month. Grace is what steadied your steps when life felt unstable. Grace is what kept your mind intact when stress tried to unravel you. Grace is what guarded your heart when disappointment whispered lies. And now, at the month's closing, God releases fresh grace. Not because the old grace has failed, but because he is always moving you forward. Fresh grace is tailored for where you are going, not where you have been. It equips you with a renewed sense of purpose and direction. It realigns the areas of your life that drifted out of balance. It softens the places that became hardened by hurt or frustration, and it breathes courage into the places where fear tried to settle. This grace is heaven's gentle hand steadying you, lifting you, ensuring you that you're not meant to end in struggle, but in strength. End of month grace is powerful because it recalibrates your inner world. It is like God resetting your spiritual compass, reminding you of who you are, what you carry, and where you are headed. When fresh grace comes, it rewrites the narrative your circumstances tried to impose. Maybe this month didn't unfold the way you expected. Maybe you faced unexpected hardships. Maybe you encountered delays, disappointments, or unanswered prayers. The prayers you uncovered encapsulate. But fresh grace comes to declare that the story doesn't end there. It gives you the strength to release what you cannot change and the confidence to embrace what God is still preparing. It helps you let go without sorrow and lean forward without fear. Fresh grace neutralizes the sting of the past and amplifies the hope of what is ahead. It steadies your emotions, quiets your anxieties, and whispers truth into your spirit until you feel anchored again in God's promises. When God releases fresh grace, he is not simply giving you energy to finish tasks. He is awakening your spiritual authority. Fresh grace reminds you that you are not functioning as an ordinary person, but as a child of the Most High who walks under divine covering. It strengthens your discernment, heightens your awareness of God's presence, and sharpens your sensitivity to his voice. It strengthens your ability to stand when circumstances tell you to sit down, to hope when evidence tells you to give up, to pray when discouragement tries to silence you. This grace is a stabilizing force, a renewing river, and a quiet empowerment all at once. It helps you rise above the emotional clutter that accumulates over the month. It clears out fear-driven thoughts and aligns you with heaven's perspective so that you no longer see situations through the lens of frustration, but through the lens of faith. Fresh grace also restores your spiritual stamina. Sometimes the battles you fight throughout the month are invisible, internal wars, private burdens, silent stresses that no one sees. And while you kept going, while you kept showing up, while you kept holding on, you may not have realized how much strength you poured out. Fresh grace comes to replenish what was depleted. It fills the areas you didn't even know were running low. It rebuilds the parts of you that were stretched thin. It ministers to the emotional fatigue you pushed past. End of month grace says you do not have to walk into the next season drained. God sees the effort you made, the tears you didn't mention, the frustration you hid behind a smile, the fatigue you pushed through, and he releases grace that gently restores what was lost in the fight. This restoration is not rushed. It flows steadily, bringing peace, lightness, and clarity as it settles over you. Fresh grace at the end of the month is also about divine repositioning. There are things God wants to shift before you step into the next cycle. Fresh grace uproots unhealthy mindsets, breaks lingering discouragement, and dismantles subtle lies that formed throughout the month. It realigns your mind with truth and clears the spiritual noise that made it difficult to hear God clearly. It lifts the emotional fog that clouded your vision. It opens your heart again to hope, possibility, and expectation. It softens you where life made you tense, strengthens you where life made you weak, and redirects you where life made you drift. Fresh grace is God guiding you back to center, back to alignment, back to the posture of expectation and trust. This grace also prepares you to recognize opportunities that were hidden before. Sometimes you cannot see blessings clearly because fatigue distorts your vision. But when fresh grace comes, it refreshes your perspective. Suddenly, what felt confusing becomes clearer. What felt overwhelming becomes manageable. What felt impossible begins to feel attainable. Fresh grace awakens creativity, inspiration, strategy, and spiritual insight. It gives you the ability to finish this month with wisdom and step into the next with precision. It empowers you to discern what to release, what to pursue, and what to protect. Grace gives you clarity for decisions, focus for your next steps, and peace for your spirit. Fresh grace does not rush you. It moves gently, but it moves powerfully. It is like a calm river that fills every dry space at the pace your soul can receive. It does not demand performance. It encourages rest. It does not pressure you. It reassures you. It does not overwhelm. It strengthens. When this fresh grace settles upon you, it brings a quiet confidence, a knowing that God goes before you, that nothing in this month has disqualified you, and that everything you walk through has prepared you end the month, not defeated, but developed, not depleted, but deepened, not wounded, but wiser. As fresh grace flows into your life at the month's end, it also renews your gratitude, because when grace touches your spirit, it reminds you of how faithfully God has carried you. You start to recognize the small miracles, the quiet protections, the unseen provisions, and the moments God intervened even when you didn't know you needed him. Fresh grace awakens thankfulness, not by force, but by revelation. It helps you see that even in the difficult places, God was present. Even in the uncertain moments, he was guiding. Even in the stressful days, he was sustaining. And that awareness softens your heart, making room for deeper intimacy with him. Gratitude then becomes not an obligation, but an overflow of fresh grace. And as this grace continues to settle into your spirit, it lifts the pressure to perform and replaces it with the peace of being aligned with God's timing. You no longer feel rushed, behind, or unprepared. Fresh grace brings rhythm back to your soul. It reminds you that you are moving according to a divine timeline, not a human one. It reassures you that nothing is late in your life. Everything is aligning. It quiets the inner critic and replaces it with inner assurance. Grace rewrites your posture, not striving, but surrendered, not anxious, but anchored, not scattered, but centered. At the end of the month, when God releases fresh grace, it is his invitation to reset, to receive, and to rise again with renewed strength, clarity, and confidence. When we talk about end-of-month transitions as spiritual gates, we are stepping into a deeper understanding of how God moves in cycles, patterns, and seasons. These moments are not random pauses on a calendar. They are sacred thresholds where the old and the new meet, where reflection and revelation intertwine, where God invites you to realign your soul before stepping into what is next. Every ending is a doorway. Every transition, a spiritual crossing. Every closing season, an invitation to divine recalibration. And at the end of each month, heaven creates a spiritual gate through which you must pass, carrying forward only what is aligned with your calling and laying down what cannot follow you into the next season. These gates are places of clarity, places of spiritual adjustment, places where God gently redirects your steps so you do not enter the next month carrying the residue of the last. They are thresholds where the Holy Spirit whispers, where your spirit becomes more sensitive, where destiny becomes more pronounced, and where you can hear God's voice with greater clarity, because endings naturally create space for reflection and divine guidance. These end-of-month spiritual gates are times when the air around you feels different, even if you cannot explain it. Your mind becomes more reflective, your spirit becomes more open, and your heart becomes more sensitive to what needs releasing, what needs preserving, and what needs redefining. God designed time to move in cycles so that you would not stay stuck in one emotional, spiritual, or mental place. The end of a month gives you permission to pause, breathe, and take inventory, not simply of what you achieved, but of how your spirit has shifted. These gates expose what drained you, what strengthened you, what grew you, and what cost you more energy than it was worth. They are places where God reveals the internal adjustments you must make to enter the next season, strengthened rather than scattered. And in these moments, the Holy Spirit gently ministers to the parts of you that grew weary, the areas that became tense, the hopes that dimmed, and the places in your soul that stretched under pressure. He meets you at the gate, offering renewal, guidance, and spiritual realignment. When you stand at an end-of-month gate, God invites you into stillness, not the stillness of inactivity, but the stillness of clarity. In this stillness, He reveals what you were too busy to see during the month. He brings to the surface frustrations you ignored, wounds you suppressed, and desires you postponed. He also highlights the victories you overlooked, the progress you made quietly, and the strength you gathered without noticing. In these moments, God shows you that every challenge had purpose, every delay had timing, every disappointment had a lesson, and every blessing had intention. It is in transitions that understanding deepens. It is in the in-between moments that wisdom becomes clearer. And it is at these gates that heaven aligns your steps, your perspective, and your expectations with what God is preparing to unfold next. End-of-month gates are also spiritual checkpoints. They help you recalibrate your pace so you do not carry exhaustion into the next season. Sometimes, without realizing it, you move through days and weeks on momentum, on duty, on habit. But at the closing of a month, God lovingly slows your internal pace. He brings your spirit back into alignment. So you are no longer rushing through life, but moving with purpose and intention. These gates allow you to release the emotional weight you picked up along the way, the conversations that lingered in your mind, the worries that try to consume you, the disappointments that attempted to define your mood. God allows these things to surface so they can be surrendered. You are not meant to carry everything forward. Some burdens belong at the gate so you can walk into the next month lighter, clearer, and more spiritually grounded. In these spiritual gates, God also imparts fresh strength, not strength to merely endure, but strength to build, to grow, to expand, to become. This strength is not loud. It does not announce itself. It settles into you quietly, like a calm confidence awakening from within. You may not feel it immediately, but suddenly you notice that you are no longer overwhelmed by what once troubled you. You no longer feel small in the presence of challenges. You no longer shrink from responsibilities that once intimidated you. Something inside you stabilizes. Something inside you strengthens. Something inside you rises. This is the strength you receive when you pass through a spiritual gate with openness, surrender, and faith. God equips you not only for the days ahead, but for the version of yourself you are becoming. The end of a month is not merely about the closing of time. It is about the shaping of identity, the strengthening of character, and the deepening of spiritual maturity. As you approach these gates, your discernment heightens. You begin to see what no longer serves your spiritual growth. You recognize relationships that drain you, habits that limit you, patterns that sabotage your peace, and thoughts that weaken your faith. God uses these transitions to reveal misalignments, so you do not unknowingly drag old dysfunction into a new season. He gives you the courage to set boundaries, the wisdom to redirect your focus, and the clarity to make decisions that align with your destiny rather than your emotions. These gates are moments where God clears your internal path, making room for divine order to settle into every area of your life. In these thresholds, thanksgiving becomes easier because gratitude flows naturally when clarity deepens. You begin to see that what felt like a setback was positioning. What felt like confusion was preparation. What felt like loss was redirection. What felt like delay was protection. In these spiritual gates, God helps you connect the dots of your journey. You realize that every moment was leading you somewhere, shaping something within you, refining something about you. And with that realization, thanksgiving rises, not forced, not mechanical, but genuine. Gratitude becomes a spiritual posture as you sense God's hand-weaving purpose through every day of the month behind you. The end of month gate is also a place where hope is recharged. As God realigns your spirit, he reignites dreams you buried and desires you silenced. He breathes fresh life into goals you paused because of fatigue or fear. He renews your expectations so you can enter the next month with faith that is alive rather than weary. Hope is not naive optimism. It is spiritual resilience. It is the courage to believe again, to trust again, to try again. And in these transitions, God restores the courage. He reminds you that your story is still unfolding, your prayers are still active, and his promises are still in motion. Hope becomes the river that carries you through the gate into the next season with joy and anticipation. At these spiritual gates, you are also given the opportunity to release control. So much of the stress you carried throughout the month came from trying to manage outcomes, carry burdens, and solve problems that only God can handle. But in transitions, God whispers, let it go. Place it in my hands. Release what you were never meant to carry. When you surrender at the gate, peace flows in. Peace settles where anxiety once lived. Peace becomes the quiet assurance that God is already in the next month preparing the path, aligning the opportunities, opening the doors, and orchestrating the details. When you release control, you make space for divine intervention. You create room for God to move beyond what you imagined. You allow your spirit to rest in the safety of his timing, his wisdom, and his love. These spiritual gates teach you the rhythm of heaven, when to pause, when to move, when to release, when to receive. They help you think your internal world with God's divine timing. You learn to embrace endings, not with fear, but with reverence. You learn to approach beginnings, not with anxiety, but with expectancy. You learn that transitions are holy. The end of a month becomes a sacred pause, a spiritual breath, a moment where heaven leans close and whispers direction, strength, and alignment. And as you stand at this gate, God whispers to your spirit that you are not stepping into the next month alone. He goes before you. He surrounds you. He carries what you cannot carry. He strengthens what grew weak. He heals what was wounded. He restores what was broken. He prepares what is ahead. He aligns what is needed. He orders what felt chaotic. This spiritual gate is not a place of uncertainty. It is a place of preparation where God equips you for the unfolding chapter. End of month transitions are sacred, not because of the date itself, but because of what God builds within you during these crossings. Your faith deepens, your awareness heightens, your spirit softens, your courage grows. These gates refine you quietly, gently, intentionally. They prepare you to walk into the next month not as the version of yourself that struggled through the last, but as the version of yourself that has been strengthened, refined, and renewed in the presence of God. And as you pass through this spiritual gate, you carry with you a deeper stillness, a renewed strength, a sharper clarity, and a heightened awareness of God's nearness. You enter the next month, not empty, but full, not scattered, but aligned, not weary, but restored, not uncertain, but anchored. Thanksgiving is one of the most powerful spiritual postures a believer can step into because Thanksgiving is not just an expression of gratitude, it is an activation of heaven's atmosphere around your life. When we say that Thanksgiving unlocks supernatural favor, we are acknowledging a divine principle woven into the very fabric of spiritual law. Thanksgiving shifts your focus, repositions your heart, and aligns your spirit with what God is already doing in your life. It takes your eyes off what is missing and awakens your awareness to what God has already provided. And when your heart becomes aware, when gratitude rises from within you, something powerful begins to take place in the unseen realm. Thanksgiving softens your spirit, quiets your anxiety, and creates space for God to move freely. It opens doors that effort could not open. It dissolves barriers that worry could not break. And it positions you under the outpouring of divine favor that God has prepared specifically for you at the end of this month. When a grateful heart rises within you, heaven responds. Gratitude is not passive. It is active, dynamic, and spiritually magnetic. A heart that gives thanks becomes a vessel God can trust with more. Thanksgiving tells God, I see what you have done. I recognize your hand. I honor your goodness. And in that moment, God begins to release even greater measures of favor, guidance, and breakthrough. Thanksgiving is not about pretending everything is perfect. It is about acknowledging that even in the imperfect moments, God has been faithful. It is about recognizing that the same God who carried you this far will carry you further. And when this acknowledgement rises from your spirit, heaven opens in response. Gratitude creates alignment, and alignment positions you to receive what God has already placed in motion. You begin to see miracles not as distant possibilities, but as natural outcomes of a heart that remains anchored in thankfulness. Thanksgiving is also the antidote to discouragement. Discouragement feeds on what is lacking, but thanksgiving feeds on what is present. Discouragement magnifies problems, but thanksgiving magnifies God's presence. Discouragement steals hope, but thanksgiving restores it. When you intentionally shift into thanksgiving, it breaks the emotional heaviness that tried to settle on your spirit throughout the month. It disrupts the cycle of worry that drains your energy. It interrupts the inner conversation that focuses on what has not happened yet. Instead, Thanksgiving activates faith. It rekindles expectation. It restores joy. It lifts your heart above the noise of disappointment and positions you to receive God's favor with clarity. You begin to sense God near you, working in ways you could not see, organizing things you did not understand, preparing doors you did not even know you needed. Thanksgiving restores the lens of faith through which you see your circumstances. At the end of the month, Thanksgiving becomes even more powerful because it closes the door to negativity and opens the gate to divine favor. When you take time to reflect on what God has done, to notice the prayers he answered, the strength he gave, the battles he fought for you silently, you become aware that you were never walking alone. Thanksgiving reveals evidence of God's presence in places where you once felt abandoned. It shows you how God protected you, shielded you, redirected you, and sustained you. And when you recognize that grace, your heart expands, your spirit relaxes, and your mind becomes clearer. You enter into a peaceful awareness that God has been good to you, and that same goodness will follow you into the next month. It is in this posture of peace and gratitude that supernatural favor flows more easily. God responds to a grateful heart by releasing more opportunities, more clarity, more wisdom, and more open doors. Thanksgiving also brings order to your inner world. Many times confusion builds when you focus on what is not working, what is delayed, or what is uncertain. But when you choose to pause and thank God for the things that are working, peace begins to settle into your thoughts. Thanksgiving reorders your emotions. It relaxes the tension in your spirit. It quiets the mind that has been running too fast. It realigns your priorities by reminding you that God is the source, the guide, the protector, and the provider. Instead of striving, you begin to trust. Instead of worrying, you begin to rest. Instead of demanding answers, you begin to recognize the blessings that were already there. A grateful heart becomes a stable heart, and stability is the foundation upon which God builds supernatural favor. Favor flows more freely in a heart that is settled, calm, and aligned with God's rhythms. Gratitude also strengthens your faith. When you thank God for what He has already done, you build confidence for what He is about to do. Thanksgiving becomes a bridge between past faithfulness and future expectation. It reminds your spirit that God has a consistent record of showing up for you, even when you didn't realize it at the time. Thanksgiving tells your heart, if He carried me through that, He will carry me through this. It tells your mind, if God opened a door before, He will open another one. It tells your emotions, if He sustained me when I was weak, He will strengthen me again. Gratitude pulls you out of fear and into faith, out of doubt and into assurance, out of anxiety and into trust. And faith is the environment where supernatural favor grows. When your faith rises, the realm of possibility expands. You begin to expect what once intimidated you. You begin to believe what once felt too far away. You begin to sense that breakthrough is not a distant hope, but a present reality unfolding. Thanksgiving also positions you for prophetic insight. A grateful heart is quiet enough to hear God's voice. It is open enough to receive divine instruction. It is sensitive enough to recognize God's signals. When you enter into Thanksgiving, distractions fall away and your spirit becomes attuned to the whispers of heaven. God reveals strategies, solutions, ideas, and directions that were hidden from you when your mind was clouded with stress or frustration. Gratitude clears spiritual fog. It brings focus. It shortens discernment. It opens your ears to the wisdom God has been trying to release to you throughout the month. In this posture, you begin to receive clarity about what to pursue, what to release, what to restructure, and what to expect in the coming days. Thanksgiving prepares you for revelation. At the end of the month, Thanksgiving becomes an act of faith. Even if everything is not perfect, even if some prayers are still pending, even if some battles are still unfolding, choosing gratitude declares that you trust God's timing more than your own understanding. It says, God, I don't see everything yet, but I see you, and God responds to that trust by releasing grace and favor that carries you into the next month with strength. Thanksgiving does not require perfection. It requires awareness. Awareness of God's goodness, awareness of God's presence, awareness of God's sustaining power, awareness of God's fingerprints throughout your journey. And awareness transforms the way you walk through life. You move with more confidence, more peace, more joy, and more expectation, because Thanksgiving keeps your spirit awake to the reality of God's involvement. A grateful heart also releases emotional burdens you were never meant to carry. When you shift into Thanksgiving, you loosen your grip on the things that drain you. You release unnecessary tension. You let go of the urge to control outcomes. Gratitude lifts heaviness from your chest and replaces it with lightness. It becomes a soothing balm for your mind, a quiet comfort for your emotions, and a gentle reminder that God is working even when you cannot see it. Thanksgiving breaks emotional stagnation. It pulls you out of cycles of overthinking, frustration, and fear. It awakens the part of you that still believes in beauty, hope, possibility, and purpose. And that awakening invites God to move more freely in your life. At this point, I want to ask you a question, and I want you to truly reflect before you answer. What is one thing God has done for you this month that you have not yet thanked Him for? Think about it deeply. Let your spirit search for that moment, that provision, that protection, that shift, that blessing you may have overlooked. And when you find it, hold it close to your heart, and then write your answer in the comments. Your gratitude creates ripple effects, not only in your life, but in the lives of those who read your testimony. Your thanksgiving releases spiritual weight. Your testimony becomes someone else's encouragement. Thanksgiving is powerful because it turns your attention toward God's goodness. It pulls you out of what is lacking and immerses you in what is present. It anchors you in the truth that God is active, involved, and deeply invested in your journey. And as this gratitude grows, supernatural favor flows, not as a reward, but as a natural outcome of alignment. Thanksgiving positions you to receive, to hear, to grow, to recognize, and to experience God more fully. And as this posture of gratitude settles into your heart, something within you softens, your breathing slows, your mind quiets, your spirit relaxes. Peace fills the spaces where worry once lived. Clarity fills the spaces where anxiety once cluttered. Strength fills the spaces where fear once weakened. Gratitude becomes the doorway through which favor enters, the atmosphere in which blessing grows, and the frequency on which God's voice becomes clearer. There are moments in life when the weight you carry is not visible to anyone else, when the battles you fight are silent, when the struggles you navigate are internal, and when your heart is pressed in ways that words cannot fully describe. Keynote No. 4 speaks to this sacred truth that every hidden burden, every silent battle, and every lingering delay comes under divine authority the moment you surrender it in prayer. This is not a poetic idea, it is a spiritual principle. There are burdens you were never meant to carry alone, battles you were never meant to fight without heavenly reinforcement, and delays that were never meant to define your story. And at the end of this month, God invites you into a deeper place of surrender, where His presence becomes your refuge, His strength becomes your anchor, and His authority becomes the force that settles everything that has unsettled you. As you release these things to Him, something powerful happens, not in the outer world first, but within you. Your spirit quiets, your mind softens, your anxieties loosen their grip. This surrender is not weakness. It is alignment. It is the posture that allows God to take what was too heavy and exchange it for grace that sustains you. Every month brings with it challenges, some you speak about and some you never mention. There are nights you laid awake thinking about things no one knows. There were moments this month when you pretended to be strong even though your heart felt fragile. There were decisions you had to make while carrying uncertainties no one saw. And yet, here you are, still standing, still breathing, still moving forward. But God knows the weight that accumulated quietly. He knows the tension in your shoulders, the heaviness in your spirit, the thoughts you cycled through repeatedly searching for peace. And He is saying to you now, bring it to me. Every hidden burden is visible to heaven. Nothing in you is overlooked. Nothing is dismissed. Nothing is insignificant to God. When you surrender these inner burdens, you are not informing God, you are releasing what your soul was never meant to hold. Prayer becomes the exchange point, the spiritual transaction where your heaviness is placed into the hands of the one who can carry it fully. There are battles you fought in silence, battles of the mind, battles of the heart, battles of faith. Maybe this month you wrestled with doubt or fought discouragement or navigated disappointment. Maybe you carried the weight of responsibility that felt heavier on certain days. Maybe there were moments when loneliness crept in, or fear whispered lies, or pressure from circumstances made you feel stretched beyond what you thought you could handle. These silent battles shape you, but they also exhaust you. And God in His gentle mercy calls you to release them so He can reclaim that space within you, replacing turmoil with peace and worry with assurance. Silence does not mean God was absent during your battles. Silence often means He was fighting for you in ways you could not see. And now He invites you to surrender the after effects, the residue of the struggle, so that you do not carry it into the next month. There are delays that linger, delays in answers, delays in clarity, delays in breakthrough. Delays can frustrate the soul because they create questions. When will it happen? Why is it taking so long? Did I do something wrong? Is God still working? These thoughts can weigh heavily if left unaddressed. But here is the powerful truth. Delays are not denials, and they are not indicators of abandonment. Many delays are divine protections. Many delays are hidden preparations. Many delays are redirections towards something better than what you originally asked for. But even when you know this intellectually, emotionally, the waiting can still feel heavy. That is why surrender is necessary. Surrendering a delay does not mean giving up on the promise. It means giving the timing back to God. When you place a delay under divine authority, you are stepping out of frustration and into trust. You are choosing peace instead of pressure. You are choosing rest instead of striving. You are choosing alignment instead of anxiety. Prayer becomes the vessel through which all these burdens shift. When you pray, you are not reciting words, you are transferring weight. You are moving burdens from your hands to God's hands. You are unloading what you were carrying and placing it under a higher authority. This is why prayer calms the heart. This is why prayer softens the spirit. This is why prayer brings clarity. In prayer, God releases peace in exchange for your worry. He releases strength in exchange for your weakness. He releases wisdom in exchange for your confusion. You come to him with heaviness and he responds with rest. You come with questions and he responds with reassurance. You come with tension and he responds with presence. Prayer is the place where your spirit breathes again. When you allow God to take the hidden burden, something shifts internally. Your spirit begins to relax. The tightness around your heart begins to loosen. The heaviness in your thoughts begins to lift. You feel lighter, not because the situation changed instantly, but because you changed. God begins to calmly untangle the concerns that filled your mind. He begins to settle the emotions that felt overwhelming. He begins to bring order to the chaos you felt inside. This is the quiet miracle of surrender. It changes you on the inside before anything changes on the outside. And sometimes that inner change is the very thing that allows the external breakthrough to unfold. When battles come under divine authority, they no longer drain you the same way. You no longer feel like you're fighting alone. You no longer feel like you're the one holding everything up. You sense God beside you, behind you, going before you. Suddenly the battle doesn't feel as intimidating because you remember who is fighting on your behalf. God steps into the places where you felt overwhelmed and begins to establish victory in ways you could not. Surrender shifts the battle from your strength to God's strength, from your ability to his power, from your perspective to his sovereignty. And when delays come under divine authority, you begin to see them differently. Instead of seeing them as obstacles, you begin to see them as divine pauses filled with purpose. Your heart stops resisting the waiting and begins trusting the process. You stop rushing and start resting. You stop questioning and start observing. You begin to sense that even in the delay, God is shaping something in you. Patience, resilience, trust, deeper faith, refined character. You stop feeling like time is being wasted and begin to feel like time is being used by God to prepare something that will bless you more deeply than you imagine. There is a deeper calm that comes when everything, your fears, your hopes, your uncertainties, your frustrations, comes under divine authority. You no longer feel fragmented. You no longer feel pulled in different directions. Surrender collects the scattered pieces of your mind and heart and brings them back into alignment. You feel centered again, not because everything is perfect, but because you are rooted in God's presence. There is peace in knowing that you have placed your concerns in the safest hands. There is comfort in knowing that you do not have to hold everything together. There is relief in knowing that God sees every detail and misses nothing. As you release these inner burdens to God, a new strength begins to rise. Not the strength that comes from pushing harder, but the strength that comes from resting deeper. A quiet strength, a grounded strength. A strength that comes from knowing God has taken full responsibility for what once overwhelmed you. This is the strength that carries you into the next month with confidence and serenity. And as all of this settles in your spirit, I want to ask you a gentle but important question. What is one hidden burden you need to release to God before this month ends? What is that one silent battle you have been fighting alone? What is the one delay that has been weighing on your heart? Take a quiet moment, identify it, and then write your answer in the comments. There is power in naming what you release. There is healing in acknowledging what you surrender. There is breakthrough in placing it publicly under divine authority. Let your heart exhale. Let your spirit soften. Let your mind rest. The moment you surrender, heaven responds. There is a profound and gentle truth wrapped within Kinot 5, that God empowers you to close this month victoriously and step into the next with purpose, focus, and spiritual resilience. This empowerment is not loud, dramatic, or forceful. It is quiet, steady, and deeply rooted in His presence. It is the kind of empowerment that doesn't always feel like a surge of energy, but rather a calm certainty, a divine steadiness within your spirit that lets you know God is guiding your steps. It is the awareness that you are not stumbling toward the end of the month. You are being carried, strengthened, and prepared. God is shaping you internally so that you finish this month not leaking strength, but gaining it. Not exhausted, but renewed, not discouraged, but grounded. And as He guides you into the final days of this month, He is whispering to your soul that you are equipped, you are supported, and you are held. Victory at the end of the month does not mean everything turned out perfectly or exactly as you planned. Victory is not defined by circumstances. It is defined by alignment. When God empowers you to finish victoriously, He is empowering you to finish aligned with His presence, aligned with His peace, aligned with His purpose. Victory looks like clarity where there was confusion. Victory looks like calm where there was internal noise. Victory looks like trust where there was anxiety. Victory looks like resilience where there was weariness. Victory looks like the quiet awareness that you have grown through the month rather than been diminished by it. And this victory becomes the foundation that carries you forward. God never allows you to end a month empty. He refills, restores, and rebuilds everything that life tried to scatter. As you approach the end of this month, God begins to lift your focus away from what drained you and toward what strengthens you. He gently shifts your attention from the disappointments you encountered to the progress you made. He softens the voice of self-criticism and amplifies the voice of grace. He helps you recognize the moments you survived when you didn't think you would, the challenges you overcame without realizing how strong you were, the blessings that arrived quietly, and the ways He carried you even when life felt heavy. This shift in focus is not accidental. It is the work of the Holy Spirit renewing your mind so that you step into the next month with vision instead of fatigue. Focus is not just mental clarity, it is spiritual awareness. It is God reorienting your thoughts toward hope instead of fear, purpose instead of pressure, and alignment instead of overwhelm. Purpose becomes clear at the end of the month because endings always reveal what truly mattered. As you reflect on these days, God begins to highlight the threads of purpose woven through each experience. Sometimes purpose is found in the obstacles you overcame. Sometimes purpose is found in the patience you learned. Sometimes purpose is found in the wisdom you gained through unexpected challenges. Sometimes purpose is found in the relationships strengthened or the boundaries you formed. Purpose is not a single moment of revelation. It is a collection of small awakenings that God gently brings to your attention. And as He does, your heart becomes more grounded. Your direction becomes more defined. You begin to sense that you are not drifting, you are being led. This purpose carries you with intentionality into the new month. You do not enter it aimlessly. You enter it spiritually aware. You recognize which habits to continue and which to release. You discern which priorities deserve your attention and which ones drain your peace. You see clearly which environments nourish your spirit and which ones strain your soul. Purpose becomes your compass. Not the pressure-filled need to achieve, but the gentle guidance that aligns your heart with what God is calling you toward. Purpose keeps you from repeating cycles that drained you before. It allows you to walk into the next month with a strengthened sense of who you are and what God is shaping you to become. All alongside purpose, God also deposits spiritual resilience within you. This resilience does not mean you won't face challenges. It means challenges will no longer overpower you. It is the kind of resilience that grows quietly, the kind that forms within you as God heals what hurt you, strengthens what weakened you, restores what was depleted, and fortifies what life shook. Resilience is not force, it is endurance. It is not tension, it is steadiness. It is not hardness, it is depth. God does not harden your heart to make you strong. He deepens your spirit. He roots you so firmly in his presence that the winds of the next month cannot uproot you as easily as before. Spiritual resilience is born in the places where God held you. It emerges from the moments when you expected to fall but found yourself standing. It grows out of the prayers you whispered through tears, the decisions you made in faith, the days you kept going even when you felt slow, and the nights when God comforted you, when no one else knew you needed comfort. This resilience is the inner strength that helps you move forward calmly, without rushing, without fear, without the weight of the past pressing into your future. God is preparing your spirit not just to step into the next month, but to step into it with confidence, grace, and grounded faith. This empowerment from God helps you close this month with emotional and spiritual clarity. You stop rehearsing the disappointments. You stop holding on to regrets. You release what did not work. You let go of the tension you carried unknowingly. You align yourself with the truth that God wastes nothing. Even the difficult moments of this month have been shaping you, teaching you, maturing you. And as this awareness settles into your heart, you begin to feel something shift. Something inside you becomes lighter. You feel more open, more centered, more present, more receptive to what God is preparing for your next season. God also empowers you with divine timing. As the month ends, he begins to orchestrate the coming days with intentional precision. Opportunities that were once hidden begin to move closer. People you need begin to align with your journey. Ideas start flowing again. Strength returns, clarity emerges. There is something sacred about God's timing. He knows exactly when to close one door and when to open another. He knows when to pause your steps and when to accelerate your path. And at the end of each month, heaven begins adjusting everything to prepare you for what is ahead. Even when you cannot see the shifts, they are happening. God is preparing you quietly for the things he has already prepared for you. Purpose, focus, and resilience also protect your peace. When God empowers you with these, you stop absorbing chaos around you. You begin to move differently, not rushed, not anxious, not disoriented. You choose peace more easily. You make decisions more thoughtfully. You navigate conversations more calmly. You approach responsibilities with clearer intention. Peace becomes the rhythm of your spirit, and resilience becomes the strength beneath it. This inner environment allows God's voice to become clearer, his guidance more recognizable, and his presence more tangible. You step into the next month not as someone scrambling for direction, but as someone grounded in God's wisdom. End of month empowerment is also about release. You cannot enter the next month carrying unnecessary weight. God empowers you to release what is outdated, unhealthy, or misaligned. He frees your heart from bitterness. He frees your mind from confusion. He frees your spirit from heaviness. You begin to see what is worth carrying and what must be left behind. God helps you distinguish between what is seasonal and what is foundational. He helps you step out of emotional cycles that drain you and into spiritual rhythms that renew you. Release becomes the gateway through which divine strength flows into you. And as you prepare to step forward, God aligns your emotions with your purpose. Your heart becomes settled. Your thoughts become anchored. Your spirit becomes peaceful. You are not stepping into the next month scattered. You are stepping into it centered. You are not entering the new month confused. You are entering it guided. You are not approaching it empty. You are approaching it filled with strength you didn't realize God had been building inside you all along. There is a holy quietness that comes when God empowers you. It is the stillness that reassures you that He is with you. It is the calm that confirms you are not walking alone. It is the inner stability that reminds you that your steps are ordered. Your life is covered. Your future is safe in His hands. God empowers you in ways that transform your inner landscape so deeply that the outside world can no longer shake you the same way. And as this empowerment settles into your being, you begin to sense that you are ready, not rushed, not pressured, but ready. Ready to release what must be released. Ready to embrace what God is preparing. Ready to step into the next month with clarity, confidence, and spiritual alignment. Ready to move with purpose. Ready to walk with resilience. Ready to carry peace within you. God is not only giving you strength, He is giving you steadiness. He is not only giving you direction, He is giving you discernment. He is not only giving you purpose, He is giving you the grace to walk in it. And as the month closes, He is gently guiding you toward the next chapter with a restored heart, a renewed spirit, and a focused mind. You are being empowered to finish well, not perfectly, but peacefully, not forcefully, but faithfully, not hurriedly, but intentionally, not exhausted, but strengthened, not empty, but overflowing with the quiet confidence that God has already gone before you. As we come to the close of this moment together, allow your heart to rest in the assurance that God has already gone ahead of you. Every prayer whispered, every burden released, every moment of surrender has opened a path for divine alignment to unfold in your life. You do not end this month uncertain or unsupported. You end it covered, strengthened, and held. Let your spirit remain open as God pours peace into every place where anxiety once lived, clarity into every place confusion touched, and grace into every area where you felt stretched. Breathe deeply and know heaven has already responded. As you step out of this prayer, carry with you the calm that has settled over your soul. God is not only preparing your future, He is preparing you for your future. He is aligning your steps with purpose, fortifying your spirit with quiet resilience, and restoring the parts of you that grew weary in the journey. Trust that the work He began in you throughout this month will continue gracefully into the next. You are being shaped, strengthened, and guided in ways you may not yet see, but your spirit feels. Hold onto that peace. Let this moment serve as a reminder that God has not forgotten your prayers. He has not overlooked your tears, your sacrifices, or your silent efforts. Even the areas of your life that feel unfinished or uncertain are being touched by His wisdom and timing. You do not need to rush what God is perfecting. You do not need to force what God is aligning. Your responsibility is to remain open, grateful, and anchored in His presence. Everything else is being orchestrated with divine precision. As you prepare to step into the next month, walk with renewed confidence. Not the confidence that comes from circumstances, but the confidence that comes from knowing you are connected to the one who rules time, seasons, and transitions. You are not stepping forward alone. God is beside you, within you, and ahead of you. Every day of the coming month is already infused with the grace you will need, the strength you will draw from, and the guidance that will lead you toward victory. Move gently, move purposefully, and move expectantly. And as this moment settles into your spirit, let gratitude rise. Gratitude for how far God has brought you. Gratitude for the strength you didn't know you had. Gratitude for the peace that blankets you now. Gratitude for the favor waiting in the days ahead. May this closing moment remain with you as a soft echo of God's faithfulness, reminding you that you are covered, you are guided, and you are deeply loved by the one who holds your past, your present, and your unfolding future. Beloved, as we step into this sacred Friday, I sense a divine summons echoing in the spirit, an invitation for you to come into alignment with the very purpose God designed for your life. Heaven is leaning in today. The atmosphere is shifting. Every step you take from this moment forward is being recalibrated, realigned, and repositioned by the hand of God. You did not arrive here by accident. You were drawn here by destiny. God is preparing to order your steps with precision, with power, and with prophetic accuracy. There is a divine pathway already carved for you, and today the Spirit of the Lord is calling you to walk in it boldly. Every misstep, every delay, every detour is being corrected in the realm of the Spirit. You are about to move in sync with heaven's rhythm. The things that once confused you will become clear. What once felt heavy will lift. Where there was uncertainty, there will be supernatural direction. Today is a day of spiritual alignment, where your feet begin to walk where your faith has always known you belong. So as we prepare our hearts for this powerful prayer, I want you to stay expectant. God is not only speaking, he is shifting, positioning, and activating something within you. Like this video and subscribe to the channel for daily prayer. Write amen in the comments. And also comment one thing you're believing God for today. Your declaration is the first step into divine alignment. Your steps are divinely ordered, even when the path feels uncertain. There are moments in your journey when you can't see more than one step ahead, when everything around you seems hidden behind a veil, when answers feel delayed and direction feels vague. Yet in those very moments, heaven is the most active. God is orchestrating the details you cannot see, arranging alignments you have not yet discovered, and guiding you with a precision that is far greater than your understanding. The uncertainty you feel is not a sign of abandonment. It is a sign that you are walking by faith. It is the evidence that you are being led by a God who sees beyond the horizon, who understands the terrain, and who knows exactly where you are going. You may not see the full path, but you are still being carried by divine intention. Every step you take, even the hesitant ones, is being woven into a larger story, one that God himself authored before you took your first breath. In the quiet spaces of your life, when your heart is wrestling with questions and your spirit is searching for peace, God is already speaking. Sometimes his voice is the gentle nudge prompting you forward. Sometimes it is the stillness that keeps you from moving too quickly. And sometimes it is the discomfort that pushes you out of places where you no longer belong. Divine order does not always feel like order when you are in the middle of it. It can feel like stretching, waiting, pruning, and shifting. Yet everything God allows is pushing you into alignment with where you are meant to be. The steps you take today are not random. They are part of a process that has been sanctified by heaven. You are being positioned with purpose, even through the moments that seem confusing or incomplete. There are seasons when God reveals the next step only after you have taken the first one. This is not to frustrate you, but to train your faith. Faith is not developed in certainty, it is shaped in the unknown. When you keep moving forward, even when you do not fully understand, you declare to the heavens that your trust is in the one who leads and not in your own ability to navigate. Every step of obedience becomes an invitation for God to reveal more. Every moment of surrender becomes a doorway to clarity. Your path unfolds as you walk, not before you walk. And the more you trust, the more you will find that God has already arranged provision before you arrive, answers before you ask, and strength before you realize you need it. Even the detours you've taken, even the mistakes you've made, even the moments where you wish you had chosen differently, none of them disqualify you from divine order. God is not limited by your past. He incorporates it. He turns wrong turns into wisdom, delays into preparation, setbacks into leverage. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not lost. You are in the hands of a God who redeems time, who restores what was broken, and who guides you with a love so intentional that even your missteps become part of your alignment. You are walking a path that God is constantly shaping for your good. You may feel uncertain, but heaven is certain. You may feel unsure, but God is sure. You may feel like you are navigating through fog, but God sees the entire landscape clearly. There is a peace that comes when you begin to understand that divine order is not something you create. It is something you follow. It is the art of listening, the discipline of surrender, the posture of trust. God does not expect you to have all the answers. He simply asks you to stay connected to his voice. Your life may be unfolding in ways you did not expect, but it is not unfolding apart from God's control. He is directing your pace, guiding your footsteps, and guarding your journey. What looks like delay is often protection. What feels like confusion is often redirection. What seems like stillness is often preparation. You are walking a path that is guided by divine intelligence, shaped by divine hands, and sustained by divine grace. And in moments when your heart feels overwhelmed, when the weight of the unknown feels heavy, pause and remember who is leading you. Remember that your life is not being tossed by circumstance. It is being carried by purpose. You're not wandering. You're being led. You are not guessing. You are being guided. The Spirit of God goes before you, beside you, and within you. Every step you take is being synchronized with heaven's timing. Even when you do not feel God's presence, his guidance is still active. Even when you cannot trace his hand, his order is still governing your path. There is a rhythm to God's leading, sometimes slow, sometimes swift, sometimes silent, sometimes loud, but always intentional. You may feel like you are standing still, but God may be working beneath the surface, preparing doors, aligning relationships, clearing obstacles, and setting things in motion. Sometimes the path is revealed through opportunities, sometimes through closed doors, sometimes through divine connections, sometimes through separation. Yet all of it contributes to the ordering of your steps. Nothing is wasted, nothing is random, nothing is accidental. God is in every detail, shaping every moment, guiding every decision. As you continue to walk, you will begin to see the evidence of his order. Moments that once confused you will make sense. Delays that once frustrated you will reveal their purpose. Prayers that once felt unanswered will show themselves as protection. God is not just guiding your steps. He is guiding your growth. He is shaping your character so you can carry the destiny he has prepared. You are being molded into someone who can handle the places God is taking you. Your uncertainty is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign that you are being prepared for something greater than what you can see right now. The path before you may not always be straight, but it is always secret. You are walking a journey that has been blessed by God's intention. Every day he is aligning your heart, your mind, your decisions, and your steps with his purpose. Even when it feels like nothing is happening, everything is happening. Heaven is working behind the scenes, arranging circumstances, directing conversations, opening and closing doors, and weaving together opportunities that will soon manifest. You are moving in divine sequence, guided by a God who sees the end from the beginning and the beginning from the end. So breathe, lean in, trust the process. Your steps are not only guided, they are guarded. You are being led with a love that will not fail you. The God who ordered the universe has also ordered your path. The God who aligned the stars has also aligned your days. The God who orchestrates the movement of galaxies is orchestrating the details of your destiny. Even when you feel uncertain, you are still walking in divine certainty. Every step you take is carrying you closer to the fulfillment of God's purpose for your life. And even in the unseen places, you are being divinely guided toward everything He has ordained for you. Alignment with God's purpose requires intentional surrender and spiritual sensitivity. It is not something that happens by accident. It is something you step into with awareness, with openness, and with a heart that is willing to yield. There comes a point in your walk where you begin to realize that purpose is not discovered through striving. Purpose is revealed through surrender. When you release your need to control every outcome, when you release your need to understand every detail, when you release your attachment to your own timelines and expectations, you create space for God to lead you into the fullness of what He designed. Surrender is not weakness. Surrender is strength under divine guidance. It is the act of placing your will in the hands of the one who sees beyond time, who knows the end before the beginning, and who has already mapped out the pathway that leads you into destiny. Spiritual sensitivity is the posture that allows you to hear, perceive, and discern God's direction, even when circumstances are loud and distractions surround you. It is the ability to sense the shift in the atmosphere before anything changes externally. It is the awareness that comes when your heart is quiet enough to hear God whisper, when your spirit is aligned enough to recognize His prompting, when your mind is still enough to perceive His leading. Many people want God's purpose, but they are too busy to hear Him, too distracted to sense Him, too hurried to follow Him. Alignment requires slowing down internally, even when life feels fast. It requires listening with the heart, not just the ears. It requires watching with the spirit, not just the eyes. When you become sensitive to the movement of God, you begin to recognize that He is always speaking, always guiding, always positioning, even in ways that feel subtle or gentle. Purpose unfolds through obedience, and obedience flows through surrender. Every time you choose God's way over your way, something inside you becomes more aligned. Every time you quiet your fears and trust His voice, you step deeper into destiny. Every time you let go of the things that tug your heart away from God, people, patterns, habits, distractions, you make room for divine alignment. This journey is not about perfection. It is about willingness. You may not always get it right, but if your heart is inclined toward God, He will guide you back whenever you drift. He will gently pull you forward whenever you slow down. He will redirect you whenever you wander. Alignment is a dance between heaven's direction and your willingness to follow. It is a partnership where God leads and you yield. Intentional surrender means choosing God even when choosing yourself feels easier. It means trusting His timing even when your timeline feels delayed. It means allowing Him to close doors that your emotions wanted to keep open. It means believing that His not yet is just as loving as His yes. It means accepting that spiritual alignment may require letting go of things that are familiar but not purposeful, comfortable but not fruitful, present but not aligned with where He is taking you. There are relationships that may not survive where God is leading you. There are mindsets that cannot follow you into your next season. There are environments that are not compatible with your calling. When God begins to align your life, He will sift, separate, prune, and purify, not to hurt you, but to position you. Spiritual sensitivity deepens when you become aware of the subtle movements of the Holy Spirit. Sometimes it is a feeling of peace that confirms you are on the right path. Sometimes it is a discomfort that warns you to reconsider. Sometimes it is an inner knowing, a holy conviction, a gentle stirring. And sometimes it is the silence that invites you to wait. Sensitivity develops in stillness, in prayer and worship, in moments when you intentionally step away from noise and allow your inner world to settle. The more you quiet your soul, the more clearly you hear God. The more you seek Him, the more visible His purpose becomes. The more you trust him, the more aligned your steps become with his divine blueprint. Alignment with God's purpose is not a one-time event, it is an ongoing journey. There will be days when you feel completely in sync with heaven and days when you feel out of rhythm. But even those moments of misalignment can become opportunities for realignment, recalibration, and restoration. God does not abandon you when you step off course. He guides you back gently. He uses conviction to redirect, peace to affirm, and circumstances to shape your direction. The goal is not to walk perfectly, it is to walk consistently. And consistency comes from surrendering daily, listening daily, following daily, and trusting daily. There will be seasons when alignment requires you to wait, even when everything in you wants to move. Waiting is not a setback. Waiting is a strategy. In the waiting, God strengthens your faith, renews your mind, purifies your motives, and rebuilds your confidence. When you learn to wait with trust, you develop spiritual muscles that cannot be built in motion. And when God finally releases you into your next step, you will walk with a stability that comes from being grounded in him, not pressured by circumstances. There will also be seasons when alignment requires immediate action. Even when you feel unprepared, God may call you to step into opportunities that stretch you, to speak when your voice trembles, to move when your legs feel unsure. In those moments, obedience becomes the key that unlocks destiny. God does not expect you to feel ready. He expects you to trust that he is ready. Your willingness opens doors that your confidence cannot. Your surrender activates blessings that your strength cannot. Your obedience releases divine alignment in ways you could never orchestrate on your own. To align with God's purpose, you must be willing to examine what influences you. Not every voice deserves access to your spirit. Not every opinion deserves room in your heart. Not every environment feeds your calling. Spiritual sensitivity sharpens when you discern what nurtures your growth and what hinders it. You begin to sense when a conversation drains your spirit, when a habit pulls you off course, when a pattern keeps you stagnant. And with surrender, you begin to let go of everything that blurs your vision of God. Alignment requires humility, the willingness to admit that God's way is higher, wiser, and safer. It requires patience, the willingness to allow his timing to unfold without forcing your own. It requires trust, the willingness to believe that even in the unseen, God is working all things together for your good. And it requires courage, the willingness to step into the unknown with confidence in the one who holds your future. This is not passive living. This is intentional alignment with the author of your life. As you surrender more deeply, you will begin to feel a peace that surpasses understanding. This peace becomes the internal compass that guides you. It anchors you when life feels unstable. It steadies you when emotions rise. It reassures you when your mind tries to overthink. Peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the presence of divine order. And where God's purpose is active, his peace follows like a shadow. You will also begin to notice that alignment unlocks clarity. Questions that once overwhelmed you begin to simplify. Decisions that once felt heavy become lighter. Confusion begins to dissolve. You start to see things from God's perspective rather than your own. Clarity is not always a full picture. It is often just enough light for the next step. But that light is sufficient because it comes from a source that cannot fail. As you walk with spiritual sensitivity, you begin to recognize God in places you once overlooked. You see his fingerprints in conversations, in timing, in unexpected opportunities. You feel his presence in quiet moments and busy moments alike. You sense his leading in your intuition, in your dreams, in your desires. Divine alignment becomes a lifestyle, not an event. It becomes the lens through which you see your life, the posture through which you make decisions, the foundation upon which you stand. Intentional surrender opens your spirit. Spiritual sensitivity tunes your heart. Together, they draw you into a life where you no longer strive to create your own path. You simply walk the one God designed. You are not lost, you are being led. You are not confused, you are being refined. You are not wandering aimlessly. You are being aligned day by day, moment by moment, breath by breath. Through surrender and sensitivity, you begin to live in a flow of divine direction where God is not just a part of your life, He becomes the one who orders every step, shapes every season, and guides you into the fulfillment of His purpose for your existence. Every misalignment in your life is being corrected by heaven's intervention. Even in the moments when you feel like things have gone off track, when you sense that you have wandered too far, or when it seems that the path ahead has become tangled with uncertainty, God is already at work behind the scenes, straightening what became crooked, reordering what became scattered, and realigning what drifted out of place. Heaven responds to misalignment with mercy, not condemnation. God steps into the areas of confusion, into the spaces where choices were made from fear rather than faith, into the seasons where you moved faster or slower than His timing. And He begins the work of restoration with the gentleness that calms the soul. Nothing in your life is beyond His ability to correct. Nothing is too tangled for Him to undo. Nothing is too broken for Him to reorder. Divine alignment is not just about walking correctly. It is also about being lovingly restored when you have. There are times in life when misalignment doesn't happen all at once. It happens gradually. It begins with a small compromise, a slight distraction, a subtle drift of the heart. And before you realize it, your spirit feels distant, your clarity feels clouded, and your direction feels uncertain. But heaven is not surprised by these moments. God does not shame you for drifting. He draws you back. His spirit whispers in the quiet places, gently reminding you of who you are and inviting you back into the rhythm of grace. Sometimes heaven corrects through conviction, a holy nudge that tells you something is not in harmony with your soul. Sometimes heaven corrects through discomfort, an internal restlessness that signals something needs to change. Sometimes heaven corrects through closed doors, divine protection that shields you from stepping into something that would have hindered your destiny. Every form of correction is a sign of God's love, not His disappointment. Misalignment often reveals itself in the form of heaviness. When you carry burdens that were never assigned to you, when you hold on to relationships that no longer serve your growth, when you engage in patterns that drain your spirit, your inner world begins to lose balance. But God never leaves you in that imbalance. He begins to rearrange the pieces. He begins to lift the weights. He begins to shift the things that are pulling you off center. Sometimes He removes you from environments that cannot sustain your calling. Sometimes He separates you from voices that drown out His direction. Sometimes He brings you into seasons of quiet so your spirit can recalibrate even when it feels like lost. Heaven is at work restoring alignment. Divine correction is not harsh. It is healing. It does not come to break you. It comes to rebuild you. God knows how to realign your steps without crushing your spirit. He knows how to restore your focus without overwhelming you. He knows how to redirect your path without making you feel defeated. Heaven's intervention always comes with tenderness, even when the process feels stretching. There are moments when God allows certain things to fall apart because they were never meant to hold you. There are moments when He gently dismantles your own plans because they were too small compared to the destiny He prepared. Alignment sometimes looks like interruption, but every interruption serves a purpose, shifting you away from what distracts you and guiding you toward what strengthens your soul. Every misalignment carries a lesson, and heaven uses that lesson to sharpen your discernment. When you misstep and God brings you back, you become more aware of His voice. When you drift and He restores you, you become more sensitive to His leading. When you choose wrongly and He redirects you, you gain wisdom that shapes your future decisions. Nothing is wasted, not even the moments when you felt lost. God turns your misalignment into wisdom, your confusion into clarity, your regret into purpose. He transforms what seemed like setbacks into stepping stones. The journey becomes richer because of the places where God carried you back into alignment with such intentional love. Sometimes misalignment shows up emotionally. You may feel unsettled, restless, overwhelmed, or confused. These emotions are often spiritual indicators, signals that something in your life is no longer aligned with who you are becoming. God meets you in those emotions, not to judge you, but to guide you. He begins to highlight what needs to be released, what needs to be healed, what needs to be forgiven, what needs to be transformed. Emotional turbulence becomes the soil where spiritual clarity grows. Heaven steps into those moments and begins the gentle work of recentering your heart. Slowly, the heaviness lifts. The confusion softens, the clarity returns, the peace increases. God doesn't just correct your steps, He corrects your inner world. Heaven also intervenes through people. There will be individuals God sends to speak truth into your life, to encourage you when you feel stuck, to challenge you when you compromise, and to uplift you when your faith feels weak. Sometimes God uses others to gently pull you back into alignment, to remind you of who you are, and to point you toward the direction your spirit has been longing to follow. And sometimes heaven corrects alignment by removing people who are pulling you off your path. Whether through addition or subtraction, every relational shift has purpose when God is guiding it. There will be seasons when misalignment comes from holding on too tightly to what God is trying to move you away from. You may cling to old habits, familiar environments, or relationships that once supported you but now limit you. And God, in His love, begins to create distance. He begins to close emotional doors. He begins to uproot desires that are not aligned with your destiny. This can feel uncomfortable, but discomfort is often a sign that transformation is underway. Heaven is not trying to take something from you, it is trying to make room for something greater. The moment you release what is misaligned, you create space for what is divinely appointed. Divine realignment also happens through revelation. There will be moments when God opens your eyes suddenly, giving you insight into something you overlooked. He reveals where your energy has been misplaced, where your boundaries have been too loose, where your priorities need adjusting. These revelations are gentle but powerful, shifting your perspective and helping you see from heaven's viewpoint. One moment of revelation can realign months of uncertainty. One word from God can straighten a path you've wrestled with for years. Heaven intervenes not only externally, but internally, reshaping the way you think, perceive, and respond. Misalignment does not disqualify you. It prepares you. It teaches you how to depend on God, how to listen more closely, how to trust more fully. It builds humility, resilience, compassion, and depth. You begin to understand that alignment is not about being perfect. It's about being responsive. The more responsive you become to the movements of God, the more effortlessly your life flows in harmony with His purpose. Even when you step out of rhythm, heaven helps you find your way back. What matters is not how many times you drift, but how quickly you return when God calls you home. Heaven's correction brings peace, it brings clarity, it brings grounding. When God realigns your steps, you begin to feel a renewed sense of ease, a calm confidence that rises within you. You feel lighter, clearer, more focused. Your decisions begin to flow from wisdom rather than emotion. Your direction feels guided rather than guessed. Your heart becomes steadier, your mind quieter, your spirit stronger. You begin to walk differently, not hurried, not anxious, not uncertain, but steady, intentional, and peaceful. That peace is the signature of divine alignment. As God works in your life, correcting what drifted off course, you will begin to notice subtle shifts. Old desires lose their pull, new passions emerge. Opportunities that once attracted you no longer appeal to you. Doors you once knocked on no longer interest you. Your steps become more purposeful because your spirit has become more aligned. What once distracted you no longer influences you. What once confused you no longer shakes you. And the more heaven corrects your path, the more your soul comes into harmony with God's original design for you. Every misalignment is an invitation for deeper intimacy with God. It is a chance to slow down, breathe, and listen more closely. It is a chance to reflect, recalibrate, and surrender again. Through this process, your relationship with God becomes more personal, more alive, more anchored. You begin to trust him more deeply because you have seen his faithfulness in guiding you through your own imperfections. You begin to rest more confidently because you have witnessed how gently he handles your vulnerabilities. You begin to walk more boldly because you know he is committed to aligning every step with his purpose. Heaven's intervention is constant, continuous, and compassionate. It does not appear only in dramatic moments. It shows up quietly in your decisions, in your thoughts, in your desires, in your conversations, in your reflections. God is always working to align you even when you are unaware. He adjusts your steps through grace, not pressure. He brings clarity through peace, not fear. He leads you with patience, not force. And as he corrects each misalignment, you become more attuned to his voice, more receptive to his guidance, and more aligned with the destiny he prepared for you long before you ever took your first step. You are not walking alone. You are being guided, held, restored, and redirected by a God who is deeply invested in your future. Every misalignment is temporary. Every moment of confusion is transitional. Every detour is redeemable. Heaven is not watching passively. Heaven is actively intervening, shaping your path with love, wisdom, and precision. Your steps are being corrected. Your heart is being centered. Your mind is being renewed, and your life is being aligned with everything God has written for you. Walking in purpose demands breaking agreement with distractions, delays, and detours. It requires a level of spiritual clarity that allows you to recognize when something is pulling you away from the path God has laid before you. Purpose is not fragile, but your attention is precious. And when your attention is divided, your focus becomes diluted. When your focus is diluted, your progress becomes slowed. When your progress slows, your spirit begins to feel disconnected from the flow of divine alignment. God's purpose for your life remains constant, but staying aligned with that purpose requires intentional choices. Choices to release what no longer serves your growth. Choices to step away from what drains your spirit, and choices to silence what competes with God's voice in your heart. You cannot walk deliberately toward destiny while holding hands with distraction. You cannot move forward while still entertaining what keeps you stagnant. Purpose demands a clear and steady heart. Distractions often come in subtle forms. They are not always loud, obvious, or harmful on the surface. Sometimes they come as harmless routines, familiar conversations, comfortable patterns, or commitments that no longer carry meaning. They can appear as opportunities that glitter but are not God ordained. They can show up as people who speak to your insecurities instead of your identity, or situations that feed your fears rather than your faith. Distractions gradually pull your attention away from what matters most, drawing your energy into things that do not produce spiritual fruit. When God calls you deeper, distractions attempt to keep you shallow. When God calls you forward, distractions tempt you to stay comfortable. And though distractions may seem small, they can weaken your momentum if left unchallenged. To walk in purpose, you must practice discernment, the ability to sense when something is misaligned, even if it looks appealing. Discernment grows when you quiet your mind enough to hear God clearly. It expands when you create space for reflection, prayer, and stillness. The more aligned you become internally, the easier it is to recognize what is pulling you off center. There will be moments when you suddenly realize that certain conversations no longer nourish your spirit, that certain environments no longer reflect who you are becoming, or that certain habits no longer fit the person God is shaping you to be. These realizations are divine invitations to shift, to adjust, to release. When you honor these invitations, you begin to walk with greater clarity and intentionality. Delays are another challenge to your purpose, but not all delays are negative. Some delays are divine. They come to protect you, to prepare you, to mature you. They come to strengthen your foundation so that you can sustain the weight of the calling ahead. But other delays are self-imposed. These are the delays that arise when fear holds you back, when indecision keeps you stuck, when procrastination becomes a habit, or when comfort becomes more appealing than growth. There are moments when God has already opened the door, but you hesitate to walk through it. There are seasons when the opportunity has already been presented, but you second guess your capability. These self-imposed delays slow your progress, not because God is withholding anything from you, but because you have not yet gathered the courage to move forward. Purpose requires movement. It requires action. It requires stepping into the unknown with trust, even when the next step feels overwhelming. Every time you choose to break agreement with fear, doubt, or hesitation, you activate a new level of purpose within you. You begin to realize that delays lose their power the moment you decide to move. You start to see that clarity often comes after obedience, not before. And you discover that progress does not require perfection, only willingness. Detours are another part of the journey. Some detours are orchestrated by God to bring you into alignment with places, people, or experiences that are essential to your growth. Divine detours may feel inconvenient in the moment, but they carry wisdom that shapes your destiny. However, there are also detours that come from distraction or self-driven decisions. These detours can pull you into unnecessary battles, emotional exhaustion, or environments that do not reflect the direction God is taking you. Yet even in these moments, God remains faithful. He has a way of turning every detour into a lesson, every misstep into a point of clarity, every wrong turn into wisdom. But purpose calls you to learn from these moments so that you do not repeat cycles that drain your spirit. Walking in purpose is not a passive experience. It is an active, intentional, daily alignment. It is choosing what feeds your spirit rather than what entertains your emotions. It is choosing discipline over comfort, focus over distraction, and obedience over hesitation. It is choosing to let go of narratives that no longer reflect your identity and releasing relationships that do not evolve with your destiny. It is choosing to silence internal voices that tell you you are not enough and replacing them with the truth of God's word about who you are. You must become the guardian of your purpose, protecting your mind, your time, your energy, and your spirit with intentionality. Purpose requires boundaries. There will be conversations you cannot engage in, environments you cannot stay in, habits you cannot return to, and people you cannot carry with you into your next season. Not because you are better than anyone else, but because your assignment requires clarity. Your calling requires focus. Your destiny requires a purified environment where your spirit can breathe freely. Some attachments hinder your elevation. Some influences dilute your spiritual strength. Some relationships drain your purpose without you realizing it. Walking in purpose demands that you recognize these dynamics and make choices that honor your growth. Breaking agreement with distractions also means breaking agreement with the internal noise that keeps you from hearing God. Sometimes the distraction is not external, it is internal. It is the fear that whispers different outcomes. It is the overthinking that complicates simple steps. It is the insecurity that questions your worth. It is the doubt that tries to undo what God has already spoken over your life. These internal distractions can be louder than anything happening around you. Learning to silence them requires spiritual discipline. It requires speaking truth to yourself, reminding yourself of God's promises, and anchoring your mind in what is eternal rather than what is emotional. Walking in purpose demands consistency, not perfection, but consistency. Showing up even on days you feel unqualified, moving forward even on days you feel unsure, praying even when you don't feel immediate answers. Purpose is built through repeated acts of obedience. It is strengthened through daily surrender. It is deepened through reflection and awareness. With each consistent step you take, you build momentum. And with every bit of momentum you build, distractions lose their influence over you. To walk in purpose, you must also learn to recognize divine timing. There will be moments when God calls you to accelerate and moments when he calls you to pause. Purpose does not always unfold in a straight line. It unfolds in seasons, in rhythms, in waves. Learning to move with God's timing protects you from unnecessary frustrations. When you trust his pace, you begin to see how everything aligns with intention. You realize that delays are not denials and detours are not derailments. They are part of the sacred rhythm that prepares you for the fullness of your calling. Every choice you make either aligns you with your purpose or pulls you away from it. The more intentional you become, the clearer your path becomes. You start to sense when your spirit is at peace and when it is unsettled. You begin to feel when a decision flows with grace and when it feels forced. This internal awareness becomes a guide, helping you distinguish between what is purposeful and what is simply present. As you honor this awareness, you begin to walk with a deeper confidence and spiritual ease. Purpose requires decluttering your mind from old beliefs, decluttering your heart from old wounds, decluttering your space from old energy, and decluttering your time from old patterns. Every bit of clutter removed creates space for clarity, and clarity is essential for direction. You cannot walk in purpose while carrying the unnecessary weight of yesterday. You must allow God to lighten your load so that you can move freely into what he is calling you to. As you break agreement with distractions, delays, and detours, you begin to feel an internal shift. Your spirit becomes more focused, your heart becomes more aligned, your mind becomes more disciplined, your decisions become more purposeful. You start to walk with a quiet confidence, a sense of knowing that you are being guided by something greater than yourself. You begin to notice that the things that once tempted you no longer hold the same power. The things that once slowed you down no longer feel appealing. The things that once confused you now appear with clarity. This shift is the unfolding of purpose. It is the awakening of your spirit to the reality of who you are and who you are becoming. It is the divine rhythm of alignment drawing you into the fullness of your destiny. Walking in purpose is not merely about reaching a destination. It is about becoming the person who is capable of carrying that destiny with wisdom, strength, integrity, and grace. When you commit to breaking agreement with everything that does not align with God's plan for your life, you begin to move with purpose, speak with purpose, think with purpose, love with purpose, and live with purpose. You become intentional in the way you steward your gifts, your relationships, your responsibilities, and your time. You walk with a deeper awareness that every step you take has meaning, every decision carries weight, and every moment is shaping you. Purpose begins to flow through you, not as something you chase, but as something you embody. It becomes the lens through which you see your life. It becomes the foundation upon which you stand. It becomes the compass that guides your direction. And as you walk, you carry a peace that is rooted in knowing you are exactly where God desires you to be, free from distractions, free from delays, free from detours, and fully aligned with the destiny he has prepared for you. God is positioning you for supernatural clarity, direction, and accelerated progress. Even in moments when your path feels clouded, when decisions feel heavy, or when the next step seems hidden behind uncertainty, heaven is actively arranging everything concerning your life. God is not only leading you, he is positioning you. Positioning is intentional. Positioning is precise. Positioning means that God is placing you exactly where you need to be so that clarity can reach you, so that direction can rise within you, and so that progress can unfold without resistance. You are not wandering, and you are not waiting without purpose. Every season of stillness, every moment of reflection, every shift in your environment is contributing to the divine placement that prepares you for what is ahead. God aligns your steps, not only so you can walk, but so you can walk with confidence, clarity, and purpose. Supernatural clarity is not something the mind produces. It is something the spirit reveals. It arrives softly at times, like a whisper that settles in your soul. It arrives strongly at other times, like a sudden knowing that you cannot explain, but cannot dismiss. Clarity is heaven's way of illuminating what was once hidden. It is God shining a light on your next step, your next decision, your next direction. And before he gives you clarity, he positions you. He clears out unnecessary noise. He disconnects you from voices that blur your vision. He brings you into moments of quiet so you can hear him more distinctly. Clarity requires space. And God is creating that space within you and around you. There are seasons when God hides clarity to protect you, not because you are not ready for the path, but because the path is not ready for you. He works in the unseen places to prepare opportunities, align timing, and strengthen your character. When the moment is right, clarity comes with ease. Suddenly, what once confused you becomes simple. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable. What once appeared uncertain begins to feel peaceful. God's clarity is not chaotic. It does not rush you. It does not pressure you. It settles you. It grounds you. It opens your spirit to recognize the direction you have been searching for. Direction is one of the greatest gifts God gives to his children. When he directs you, he is not merely giving you instructions. He is guiding you into purpose. Divine direction begins on the inside before it manifests on the outside. It forms as a conviction, a feeling of peace, or a gentle pull in your spirit. When God directs you, he aligns your desires with his will. He strengthens your intuition so you can sense his movement. He organizes your thoughts so they point toward the path he has chosen. Divine direction is not always loud, but it is always steady. It does not confuse, it confirms. It does not frustrate, it frees. It creates a steady confidence within you that lets you know you are being led, even if you do not see the full picture ahead. As God positions you for direction, he begins to shift certain things in your life. These shifts may feel unexpected, but they are purposeful. You may feel drawn away from certain relationships, responsibilities, or environments. You may sense a need to slow down, to reevaluate, to reassess what truly aligns with your spirit. These inner prompts are part of how God directs you. They are gentle nudges toward alignment. When you follow these nudges, you begin to see how every step you take leads you toward a path that fits your spirit, your calling, and your destiny. Accelerated progress does not mean rushing. It means movement without hindrance. It means God removing obstacles that once slowed you down. It means he is placing you in environments where your growth can flourish and your purpose can unfold. Acceleration is a divine rhythm where things begin to unfold faster, smoother, and with greater ease. You may look back and realize that seasons of stagnation were preparing you for a moment when everything suddenly moves forward in alignment. God accelerates you when he knows you are ready to carry what comes with progress. Often, accelerated progress comes after moments of pruning or redirection. God removes what drains your energy and brings what strengthens your spirit. He closes doors that distract you and opens doors that empower you. He shifts your relationships, your resources, your opportunities, and even your mindset so that you can move into your next chapter with clarity and strength. What once felt difficult begins to flow What once felt distant begins to manifest. What once felt impossible begins to take shape. Acceleration is not a coincidence. It is a confirmation that your alignment with God is becoming stronger. Before acceleration comes preparation. God prepares you internally by developing discipline, patience, wisdom, and discernment. He prepares you externally by aligning the right opportunities, the right connections, and the right timing. You may not understand every shift you are experiencing, but each shift is guiding you into the place where progress can flourish. Every delay, every pause, every recalibration has been part of your divine positioning. God does not rush the process, but when the appointed time comes, He accelerates it with supernatural grace. Supernatural clarity also requires detachment from the noise around you. There are many voices in life, opinions, expectations, doubts, fears that try to speak louder than God's direction. As God positions you, He teaches you how to filter these voices. He teaches you to distinguish the voice of truth from the voice of fear. He teaches you to follow peace rather than pressure, purpose rather than people. Clarity comes when your heart is anchored in God. When you stop striving for answers and start resting in His presence, direction begins to rise from within. The clarity God provides is often progressive. It reveals itself step by step. God gives you just enough insight to take the next step, knowing that each step will bring you closer to a more complete view. Like walking in candlelight, you may not see the entire path, but you see enough to move forward with faith. This progressive clarity builds trust. It teaches you how to walk with God, how to hear Him, how to recognize His hand in the details of your life. As divine direction becomes clearer, you may begin to feel certain desires awakening within you, desires that reflect God's purpose for your life. These desires are not random. They are spiritual indicators, pointing you toward the path God has prepared. You may feel drawn to new roles, new environments, new responsibilities, or new levels of growth. As you follow these holy desires, acceleration begins to unfold naturally. You move into alignment with a grace that carries you forward. God's positioning also involves removing confusion from your path. Confusion is often a sign of misalignment, and clarity is always a sign of divine presence. As clarity rises, confusion falls away. As direction strengthens, uncertainty weakens. As alignment deepens, acceleration increases. This is how God guides you into your destiny, through peace, through clarity, through alignment, through divine prompting. Heaven orchestrates details you are unaware of. God speaks to people on your behalf. He touches the hearts of those who will open doors for you. He arranges meetings, conversations, and opportunities that appear at the exact moment you need them. What seems sudden to you is not sudden to God. It is the unfolding of a divine plan that has been in motion long before you understood it. You are stepping into a season where the things God planned for you are beginning to converge. As you move forward, you will begin to feel things align effortlessly. The right words, the right timing, the right opportunities, the right people. You will feel a sense of flow rather than resistance. You will sense movement instead of stagnation. You will notice patterns that confirm God's hand guiding your direction. This ease is not accidental. It is supernatural. It is a sign that God is positioning you for progress that is not born of your strength, but of His divine orchestration. Walking in purpose becomes easier when clarity is present. You no longer feel torn between choices. You no longer feel confused about your next step. You no longer feel overwhelmed by uncertainty. Instead, you feel anchored, steady, grounded. You begin to walk with a confidence that comes from being led rather than guessing your way forward. God's clarity brings order to your mind. His direction brings peace to your soul. His acceleration brings fulfillment to your journey. And as you move into alignment with Him, you will begin to experience a new rhythm, one where progress is not forced, where clarity is not chased, where direction is not strained. Instead, everything begins to unfold with a calm assurance. You are entering a season where God is making your next steps clearer, your spirit stronger, your mind sharper, and your path more defined. He is positioning you not just for movement, but for meaningful, purposeful, accelerated progress. You are being aligned with divine timing, divine wisdom, and divine strategy. The uncertainty is lifting, the confusion is fading, and the clarity is rising. You are being positioned for supernatural breakthroughs, supernatural movement, and supernatural unfolding of everything God has written over your life. Every step you take is guided. Every decision you make is supported. Every direction you follow is aligned with His purpose for you. God is positioning you, shaping you, preparing you, and leading you into the fullness of destiny with clarity, with direction, and with an acceleration that only heaven can produce. As we close this sacred moment together, allow your heart to rest in the truth that God has been speaking directly to your spirit. Feel the calm settling over you, the quiet reassurance that His hand is still upon your life, guiding every breath, every step, every decision. You are not walking alone. You're being led by a God who is deeply invested in your journey. And even now, He is aligning the path before you with divine precision. Let peace fill the spaces where worry once lived, and let trust rise where fear once whispered. Take a moment to breathe in the presence of God, knowing that everything you have prayed, everything you have surrendered, everything you have released today is resting safely in His hands. He is actively working behind the scenes, shaping your steps, restoring your hope, healing your heart, and positioning you for the next chapter of your life. You may not see all the evidence yet, but heaven is already moving on your behalf. Your spirit is being strengthened, your vision is being sharpened, and your path is becoming clearer. Let your soul be comforted by the truth that God's timing is not delayed and His purpose for your life is unfolding exactly as it should. There is no misstep He cannot correct, no detour He cannot redeem, and no season He cannot use for your good. Trust that every moment, both the quiet ones and the challenging ones, is shaping you into the person who can carry the fullness of your calling with grace and strength. You are being prepared in ways you may not fully understand, but the preparation is holy and the process is necessary. As you move forward from this moment, carry with you a renewed awareness of God's presence. Let His peace guide your emotions, let His wisdom guide your thoughts, and let His Spirit guide your decisions. Continue to walk with intentionality, with clarity, and with the sensitivity to the gentle whisper of His voice. Know that with every step you take in alignment with God, you are stepping deeper into your purpose, your promise, and your destiny. Stay open, stay surrendered, and stay expectant. And as you go, hold this truth close. God is not finished with you. He is just beginning a fresh chapter. May your steps be steady, your heart be anchored, and your spirit be filled with quiet confidence. If this prayer has blessed you, like this video and subscribe to the channel for daily prayers. Write amen in the comments and share one thing you're believing God for today. Your declaration is a seed that heaven will honor.